It's Halloween. Sound of a ghost sound.
Ooh, spooky.
Norman would be wandering around on a cold, spooky night. Sound is the sound.
Spooky ghost sounds.
Exactly.
Oh, it's all windy.
So he's wandering along, moving through the fields on the outside of the town. He sees something shake, something move in the moonlight. Probably just the wind, but soon besetting him from all sides.
It's a spooky wind.
Oh, spooky wind. He sees... What does he see, Sam?
He sees a scarecrow.
Hell yeah! But not only that, as he sees the terrifying scarecrow arrive upon him, what is that biting at his heels? But an awakened pumpkin.
What? Is that a thing?
There's an awakened shrub, but it just says any small plant.
Oh, welcome to Spooky Challenge Races. It's the Halloween episode of the show we do, where we talk about a monster while I draw it. I'm Theo.
I'm Neil, social media manager. Yeah.
And I'm Sam, the resident spook expert. There's one thing that people tell me, and that is that I know scary things.
I've always said that to you. I'm not sure why I've always said it to you, but I know I always have. Okay, well, an awakened pumpkin and a scarecrow.
Well, strictly speaking, what we did is we ended up, it was like a 2-month special. So we thought we'd come up with, a Halloween encounter. And what's scarier than the scarecrow and the field coming alive to fight you?
No, yeah. It's, cornfield. We're not American, as you might have noticed. But I have noticed in American horror movies, cornfields are a frequent spooky theme because you get lost in them, and it's like a maze with no paths. Is there anything scarier than that? Not that I can't think of anything.
I can't think of anything scarier than orderly lines of vegetation.
No,
ordinary lines of corn.
Yeah,
lines of big. Look, it's big. It's America. The fields are very big. You might get lost and have nothing to eat but raw corn, and that's bad.
You look left, you look right, and suddenly Dust Bowl.
Exactly.
Nothing scarier than the 1920s Dust Bowl.
Anyway.
A scarecrow is animated by the bound spirit of a slain evil creature, granting it purpose and mobility. So basically, something will... It talks about in the book about it. The hags or witches will often bind a scarecrow with the spirit of a demon.
Okay.
So, or it's essentially any evil creature will do, and obviously it binds them into a kind of servitude where they will stand watch over their domain and act out their orders. But it specifies they have to be evil.
Okay, sure. As in, the spirit.
The spirit has to be evil, which obviously why it gets aligned with hags and those kind of things. Because it would definitely be something they would summon, because it'd be right up their street to just make an evil thing that would just ruin everyone's crops.
Are they constructs then?
They are constructs.
This is it's not our first, because we did the flying sword, which is of course a construct. But yeah, we've not done many constructs, and this is a unusual construct, as it's not like a metal or a stone thing. That's cool.
It's a construct of cloth and hay.
If you had asked me before talking about where they're from, I probably would have assumed that they were undead or something, like a weird kind of undead. But construct makes a lot of sense. If
their creator dies, they will either follow that last command. They will or seek revenge or destroy themselves.
Oh, Christ.
So
do they have language or intelligence or anything?
They have... Their stats are basically all 10s apart. They actually have 13 charisma, 10 intelligence, 13 dex. So they know the language... They understand the language of their creator, but they cannot speak.
Ah, okay. They're a silent henchman.
Yes.
For a witch. That's kind of fun.
And this all really leans into my monster, just to talk about a little bit.
Sure, yeah.
So the Awakened Shrub is basically, it's not written as a monster in the same way as others. It's in the back of the monster manual though. It's a monster, it's a plant that's been awakened using the Awaken spell.
Okay, sure. I don't know that.
Which is a druid spell that can bring plants to life.
Right.
And so some kind of witch knowing this kind of spell makes so much sense,
Yeah.
Yeah, normally you would like awaken a tree and you get an ally for like a day.
Yeah.
But you can also cast on any other plant, and they basically become animate again, only knowing the language that their master had known. Follow any tasks they're kind of given. So you can see very much of a spooky episode if we played into that hag episode.
Yeah.
She'd probably find it just as funny as we do for the whole field to get up and
Yeah.
run at like passers by. It's quite fun.
That's a cool spell. Basically, like making a familiar out of a little plant. I find that quite cute. That's fun. But this is a spooky application of it. So when they're awakened, do they get like? I assume they get like a rudimentary attack and movement and stuff.
I'm gonna be real. The awakened shrub is possibly one of the most pathetic creatures I've ever seen in D&D.
Excellent.
It is challenge rating. It is challenge rating 0.
0. There's not.
Just to mention it because of how bad it is. Weapon attack +1 to hit.
Hey, that's not plus nothing.
Yeah,
it could be worse.
There's a D4 -1. It's a bush.
Oh god, so it could do 0 damage.
It's a bush or a pumpkin socking you, so it's yeah,
it's fine.
And it's again, it has all those dumb rules that I don't think need really writing down. Like in an anti-magic field, it's just a bush.
Yeah, great. Thanks, dude. Thanks for letting me know. It's one of those ones where you look like, man, this has got quite a long entry. It's like, oh, it's just all explaining these same rules for all this stuff again. Thanks. Very important.
And if it stays motionless, it's just a plant. So it's perfect for the ambush encounter.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Scarecrow's got the same thing as well, false appearance.
It's perfect.
Yeah, false appearance and stuff, yeah. Does it have like a weapon attack or anything, the Scarecrow? Because I can imagine it being equipped with like a pitchfork.
So, the Scarecrow, I mean, you could give it a weapon. It has multi-attack, but it's just with its 2 claws. And they're not...
It's got claws, oh.
Yeah, okay. They're not super strong. It's only a +3 to hit, but it's 2d4 +1. That's all right. A Scarecrow's only challenge rating 1, but it's got some interesting, vulnerabilities and resistances going on. Well, it has a vulnerability for one thing, which is kind of rare for a lot of D&D.
Not so common in 5th.
Obviously, it's vulnerability to fire. Makes sense. It's made of hay.
So's the plant.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can burn it all down.
A pumpkin be wet. A Scarecrow, perhaps not.
It does have resistance to non-magical weapon damage and is immune to poison. Can't be charmed, exhausted, frightened, paralyzed. Has dark vision. So I think all those things together, it's got a decent health pool as well, like 36. For a challenge rating 1 creature, it's kind of interesting.
I am disappointed that its intelligence is not low. Because if there's one thing I know about scarecrows, is that they're looking for brains.
That's true. Yeah, but I think these ones...
As a previous performer in that play once at school, I should know that the Scarecrow wants a brain, and it should want your brain. But
it should be an undead. Yeah.
But then I guess I'm just talking about zombie, but covered in hay. Oh, sad. I was just thinking, while we're talking about that, I'm thinking you can have like a were-lion, a Scarecrow, and then like a golem, and then you got the whole gang.
Nice.
It's kind of in the same
animated
vein of,
armor.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's in a similar vein to like the classic Alice in Wonderland Gary Gygax adventure, but you could have I think you could do quite a fun Wizard of Oz little one-off or something that could be quite funny.
The villain could be the Wizard of Oz, and
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
These are the
Necromancer of Oz.
Yeah. Or the Lollipop Guild is just a bunch of goblins.
Yeah.
You play it from the other way,
Oh, obviously, yeah.
You actually get given the quest by the Wicked Witch.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
I think a thing that I guess is worth noting that I should have mentioned and haven't yet it possesses a terrifying glare.
Oh, Christ.
So it can target one creature within 30 feet. It's only a DC 11 wisdom saving throw, but if they fail it, they're frightened and paralyzed. That also happens if their attacks are successful as well.
Oh, okay. So that's pretty mean for a quite low challenge rating.
Challenge rating 1 creature. So on a hit, it'd be a DC 11 saving throw, and it will be frightened to the end of the Scarecrow's next turn. That's
actually really quite cool because again, this is basically an undead that is a construct as well. Like from what I can tell of its
somewhat
A, it's lore, and B, it's like because a lot of like the frightened effects or like paralyze all is under like undead stuff usually. Because like Ghoul had like paralyze and stuff, didn't it?
Yeah.
On its claw attacks, and obviously like Ghost has the frightening and all this. So if you want like an undead flavor, but not to use undead for whatever reason, then Scarecrow's a cool choice.
I think
obviously it has a place in any sort of witchy or druidic themed campaign as well.
I don't think this would ever work really in a campaign because they're not obviously enchant rating ones, they're not that strong. But the line of them seeking revenge for their creator's death and the fact they have like construct nature, so they don't need air, food, drink, or sleep.
Oh sure,
I really love the idea of like a Scarecrow version of It Follows, where like you keep noticing the same Scarecrow like waiting in like, all these different fields. That you go to a new town, next day you wake up and there's a Scarecrow in the field.
That'd be cool, but what if it's like an army of Scarecrows and they keep coming after you? It's is it the same one? Is it a different one? Who knows?
That's that. As soon as I read it, that's what came into my mind. I thought that'd be really cool. Like there's Scarecrows walking out of the sea towards you.
Now what I'm thinking is making a Death Knight who's a Scarecrow, and just
I mean, like if you want to have the like, I think about Scarecrow like that.
Yeah.
If you do have, for instance, a evil witch or hag.
Yeah.
Who, for instance, she's threatening a village, and you want to have a dramatic moment where she attacks the town.
Scarecrows.
The idea of a bunch of scarecrows and, again, maybe the other creatures we're talking about, like the animated plants and, like, you know, like all kinds of these weird, arcane animated things that are just... They're scary. You think of witches and, you know, you get those images as well from probably Oz
totally.
And fancy dress and stuff like that, and it would probably be quite like a memorable event of the witches attacking the town with scarecrows.
Yeah. Because this is a cool thing that you could just use as a minion and not have to think too hard about it. But again, like you have the opportunity to think about what evil thing was used to make the scarecrow. And like, did it say it was like specifically like demons and like powerful stuff, or was it just like souls? It
specifically says that hags and witches would bind scarecrows with the spirits of demons, but any evil spirit might do. The spirit doesn't recall any memories of its past life. It's purely focused on serving its creator.
Sure. So what you could then have is like an evil ghost or whatever that has been grabbed by a witch and stuck in something, or maybe like that could be a way to get rid of a ghost in an evil campaign. Bargain with a witch and say, hey, can you make it into a scarecrow? So it'll just be your problem now. But I'm also thinking specifically where I've drawn a noose. Maybe there's some dude got hanged, and then his spirit was wrangled and turned into a scarecrow, and that's some evil local murderer or someone who gets hanged for something evil. Because again, it has to be an evil guy, not someone who was wrongly punished.
No,
that's no fun.
It's quite an interesting take on the evil necromancer. Have maybe the witch's den above the barrows or something.
Yeah.
And she's using those spirits to raise these creatures. These spirits.
As opposed to making zombos, I almost said. Good thing I didn't say that. Making constructs out of them. It's a little twist, like, because you think like necromancer and then you think obvious stuff, but it's stuff like the little scarecrow, which means you can do some not necessarily more interesting, but like not so obviously expected. I think you can have little twists to things.
From my experience using scarecrow, because I did actually use them before.
Oh yeah.
I used them in an encounter where they were going to a vampire town.
Oh, cool.
Well, basically, it was a vampire who ruled over a town of people they kept as, you know, people to feed on, and but there were people that had nowhere else to go or be, and they're
pay their blood tithe.
Yeah, they're kind of rotted crops because their crops were like poor because of, you know, the soil, the land's tainted by the presence of the vampire. So like their crops were like looked over by scarecrows, and when the gang kind of went rampaging around, you know, being a D&D party, they ended up being beset upon by the scarecrows in the fields, and it led to a fun encounter because, you know, it was like, okay, this place is spooky town.
Right, yeah. Okay, I'm going to draw Norman small here, but just because I need to plan out his pose, and I can't do it like full size. I'm doing him small and then big, so the scarecrow is not a sort of 80-foot scarecrow.
Why couldn't he be?
Why couldn't he be?
Oh, Wicker Man. Wicker Man.
Wicker Man.
when we're talking about how to make a stronger scarecrow and have it be a more intimidating threat, just a massive one made out of the souls of many evil things. Why not? That could be very cool. A giant wicker man who's hunting you. Oh, that's a scary thing.
A wicker man with a man trapped in the head.
Yeah. Please let me out, Jesus Christ.
It could be an NPC, you know.
Yeah.
You know, the blacksmith.
Right.
Or the blacksmith's daughter.
Exactly. Always an important NPC. I'm trying to... Maybe I won't go with this. I was trying to think of like how it could be... For some reason, basketball dunking is what I'm going with. Don't really know why he would be doing that. I guess he's just trying to slam it into the ground.
That's pretty much it for the Scarecrow, I'd say.
That's cool,
like,
though.
in regards to just purely what is in the book.
I just want to touch on Awaken a little bit more.
No, sure, yeah.
Because we've talked about before the idea that there are some spells in the book which a DM who maybe doesn't know them doesn't know how useful they could be to them.
Yeah.
And I think Awaken's one of those where, like, you would normally never look up, like, Awaken tree at the very back of the monster manual.
Yeah, why would you?
But when you think about, like, oh, this character, this druid or someone could be awakening these... Anyone who's tied to natural spirits, like some kind of druid. Druid capital D is evil druid, druid little d is like character druid.
Yeah.
But you know, evil druids or witches or you know, hags.
Sure,
it's a great little spell that's like says like it flavors itself.
Well, again, when we're talking about how like a Minotaur could be part of a wider evil druid campaign, and then if you don't take that opportunity to look through like the druid spell list and choose like all the best druid spells, then that's a real shame and a missed opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, you could this like all those hundreds of little stories end up writing themselves. You can make a campaign out of it. You know, like druids have a spell like Moonbeam that reveals lycanthropes. So maybe maybe they've cast out lycanthropes and they could be an ally of the party, something like that.
Yeah.
And then I think
got to dispel that somehow.
And again, we often talk about interesting ways to use monsters. Sometimes because they need a little bit of help. I think that in this case, Scarecrow and what we're doing, like an awakened plant in the same encounter, they flavour themselves. Like you know exactly what a Scarecrow is and how to use it.
Yeah, we're having fun talking about a strong Scarecrow, but I wouldn't necessarily want to do that just because it shouldn't be tough because it's a construct made out of wood and hay and clothing. It's not and I think a Wicker Man one is like the only strong one I would want to see. Like that's the only time I'd be like, that could be pretty cool having.
And
a
he would
massive
be
one.
large, probably like you know.
Large or huge depending on how that works, but. And that could be cool, but again, I wouldn't expect it to be like any more than like a challenge rating, like 5 or 6 thing, really, because it's still a big wooden structure.
It's
a cool set
still
piece.
Burn it down quite easily.
Exactly, yeah. But it could be like an interesting like lore thing, or like and again, Wicker Man's like it's a pretty traumatic thing. It could be quite a dramatic thing to have, but again, not an actually intimidating enemy thing. I don't think a Scarecrow should be that, nor should an awakened plant be that, of course.
I think that
depending on what you awaken, but.
One thing about improving a Scarecrow as well, I think that they benefit from another rule for another creature.
Oh yeah.
They benefit from the Troll's ability to like the special Troll where when its limbs fall off they like animate. Yeah, and a Scarecrow where it's just straw on the inside and you cut off its arm and the arm starts attacking you.
Yeah, because you could use the stats for the severed hand thing. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, crawling hand. Yeah,
the crawling hand. Yeah, you could use the stats for that sort of thing, and that could be quite good. And I think again, you give it a pitchfork. Could be quite you could arm them and give them little things, and that could be quite fun.
Yeah, like because again, we planned this as kind of as an encounter.
Yeah.
So you could imagine like maybe for like you're running a Halloween session, everyone's like 2nd level or something.
Yeah.
And
the local teens in the town or whatever.
Yeah, and they go out and then the spooky encounter is, like a Scarecrow and like 4 shrubs. Exactly. That's the first like encounter of the spookiness beginning. And maybe they've heard rumours about that there's a weird Scarecrow from the local kids. and they go around all the fields bothering all the other farmers' scarecrows. And they're all normal.
Like completely ignoring, or you could have like all the farmers with their different scarecrows. Like this farmer's scarecrow is like absolutely terrifying, made out of like horrible stuff. Like it's just a normal scarecrow, but it's made out of horrible stuff because he's really trying to scare those crows. And then like the most generic one, you could have a Indiana Jones. You chose poorly. Moment with some scarecrows. It could be quite fun.
In my village, we have something called the Scarecrow Trail.
Oh yeah.
Which is something that happens like every year, where
as in your village in real life.
Not my village. Yeah,
I'm just clarifying that.
Yeah.
Yes, I think I have
in my village of Utopia.
Yes, exactly.
We have something called the Scarecrow Trail, where we people make scarecrows and they have them out in their front garden, and they're just like. Awesome. The random things, like I remember when I was a lot younger, there was one that was just outside some random house that had the picture of the school's head teacher as his face, and he was like hunched over having a pint.
Very good.
Basically on like one day, like a Saturday, everyone goes around and looks at them. So a little ritual like that in a peasant village, but then some witch is causing some ruckus.
Yeah. Or the guy who lost last year.
Oh, the guy who lost last year.
The scarecrow competition.
Oh,
that could be like a really fun, because I like starting characters young and then having time progress. That could be a very fun, you are level 1 to 2 adventurers and you're like teenagers. And like you're dealing with stuff that's not world ending, but it's world ending to your little local world potentially.
Yeah, and one thing I want to touch on with that, because of it's literally just come to mind, but I never really thought of it. It's a problem with D&D that I do have.
Yeah.
And that's creatures like the Scarecrow having terrifying visage. Because there's a chance that if I was playing a level 15 paladin, that I would be scared of this scarecrow.
Oh, it's a scary scarecrow.
So it has a really bad DC, so it's not likely.
But it is. But the thing about rolling, if you don't have great wisdom or whatever, and you're not near a paladin. Then it's closer to a 50-50 than it ought to be.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind, anyone above level 5 could 1v one of these things pretty easily. I guess it's just the case where the way that the game acknowledges that is by basically saying if your DM's throwing scarecrows at you at that level, then that's weird. But that's not game balance. That's just
it's because the DC's so low.
That's the thing.
And also, I think that's part of the problem again is how much stronger do people actually become as a D&D character, and how you represent that. Because if you're actually playing it right, and this is slightly off topic, of course, but
sure.
It's Halloween, so I guess we're allowed a bit of a special episode.
Spooky, the fear of off topic. Sorry.
Is with D&D is if you're worth your salt, then leveling up should be an event. Maybe some time has passed, you've learned something.
Yeah.
And in that case, what we're talking about makes sense. But if you're playing more fast and loose, where a whole campaign is a month in game, then maybe you would still be scared of a scarecrow.
Yeah, you just haven't realised it yet. It's Jesus Christ! You still remember last week when you fought some animated armors and they pulverised you to nothing.
But if you are 15th level, having been a year adventuring against countless odds and stuff, it's a different story.
If you face down a Hydra, you shouldn't be scared of a scarecrow, really, should you?
I absolutely want, the next campaign I'm involved in running, I want to be very, you can't level up until a certain amount of time has passed of, downtime. It's the old Elder Scrolls thing where you gotta sleep, except instead of sleeping for a night and leveling up, it'll more be 1 month per level, as it were.
I like that.
Level 1 to level 2 is a month, level 2 to 3, 2 months. Why not? It's a very different kind of campaign, but I want to try it. Anyway.
But what's more terrifying than downtime?
Challenge rating.
Challenge rating.
Yeah, that's true. I haven't done that yet.
Exactly.
I forgot about that.
Giving these things some numbers.
I enjoy the Scarecrow quite a lot.
I enjoy the Scarecrow.
I do as well. I want to just go out right in front and say that a shrub is a 3.
Shrub is bad.
Yeah. I
Awakened Shrub. I might say 2. 3 feels a little... Because 3 was Flying Sword. And I think Flying Sword's better than that.
I think that Flying Sword is less interesting than the Awakened stuff because that like storytelling.
Alright. Oh no. Okay.
I'm gonna go 3. I agree with Neil.
I'll concede to 3. That's fine.
I think that just the Awakened element of it is worth that. Like,
I think if you use it well and have some interesting stuff going on and remember to use it, my main issue there is like what a annoyance in combat to roll for that and have it do nothing.
well, that's why I said you only have 4. Like, you only have 4.
Yeah, it's true. It wouldn't be too bad a thing anyway. Okay, cool. 3's fine. I'm okay with that. Now, Scarecrow, the frightening presence thing, not the most exciting, interesting thing in the world. It's fun that it's there because it does have this, it's a horror movie like thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of fun. I wouldn't go much more than 12 to be quite fun.
I had 11 in my mind, but I could, because I do think it's cool. But that's mainly because I have the It Follows thing in my head about it, and I just think that's a cool
to be honest, I feel like 11 might make more sense than 12 as well. I said not more, unless Neil, you have a very strong.
I'm going to be real. I was going to go a little bit lower than that, but I don't know. I don't know why. Because I like the low-level construct element, particularly for this druid campaign we seem to be thinking up together.
Yeah. That's mainly what I like is its lore, and like it's because the lore makes it easy to make fun stuff with. And the actual like use of it, not super exciting, but it'll be fun to have the party go, let's try fire, like it's a scarecrow, and then that being really effective, that could be quite fun. And that's why I would go above 10, but I wouldn't want to go much more than that.
I'll take that. I was gonna go lower, but I don't think it deserves it. I think 11's good.
Yeah, let's go with 11. I'm happy with 11, and I think hopefully if I do a good job with this picture, it should be quite fun. It's the classic Normans on one side, monsters on the other side, and he's not looking at it. The classic.
Well, he's busy looking at something else.
Oh yeah, he's got.
Yeah.
So we need to do something. We need to do a construct of some sort so we can get another hand. That'll be next season. Do you guys want to look at a scarecrow?
Yeah, let's look at a scarecrow.
Oh wait, it's Halloween, guys. It's Halloween. So we need to. Okay.
I'm wearing my Halloween hat.
Where's your Halloween hat?
It's got a Mars bar sticking out of it, like it's penetrated my skull.
Yeah.
It's a hard hat with like a bullet hole in it with a Mars bar sticking out of the hole.
Yeah.
So we're all in.
Kind of like it's been fired out of a catapult.
We're all in our Halloween costumes right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am Evangelion Unit 1.
full scale.
Yeah, full scale. Yeah.
I'm just wearing my dressing gowns. That's like a first. Is it First Order? Is that the new Star Wars bad guys?
There's the new Star Wars bad guys. Yeah, you can tell because they're called the First Order for some reason.
Jeez,
yeah.
Come on, put in some effort.
It's got a hood. It's like a black
Wow.
yeah.
Took me 20 minutes, Sam, to make this outfit.
Anyway, do you guys want to see a Halloween man? A scared Master Wayne.
Master
Hello,
Wayne.
it's me. What about their legs?
It's me, my cocaine.
My cocaine here. Would you like to see a scarecrow? Master Wayne. Oh my God, Scarecrow! It's a Batman! But I didn't even make the connection. And Master Wayne.
Master Wayne. What about their shrubs?
Oh, hang about. My file is too big, Master Wayne. I've got to quickly decrease the size of the JPEG.
Oh,
because
no.
I saved it too big. This has not happened yet. Master Wayne, it's because I made it 8,000 pixels wide, Master Wayne. That was not... Master Wayne, that wasn't necessary. That was...
You're fired, Alfred. You're fired.
That was too big, Master Wayne.
Pack up your shit. You're back on the street now.
What's the point of all those bloody push-ups if you can't even get an 8,000 pixel?
You're banned from Wayne Manor. Am I ever going to see the Scarecrow? Find out.
Okay, I think
in season 4.
Master Wayne, I think it's working now. There you go. It's uploading.
Master Bruce.
There you go.
Oh.
It took me bloody ages because it's an A3 picture. A3's big, and it's drawn. Well, the black's by hand. The colour I did afterwards on the computer.
It's spooky, man.
That's awesome, man.
Ooh, hang it.
I like it. I like it.
I only figured out how I wanted to do clouds after I'd done half of them, not the way I wanted to do them. But that's what learning's about. Let's just hope next time I do something like this, next year, when it's Inktober again, I remember. We'll see.
For the first time, I think, in history of Challenge Raiders, all three of us actually played a game against this creature in the week between you beginning and finishing.
We
this creature.
fought. We in real life. Well, we in the D&D real life played yesterday.
The realest it can be.
Yeah, we fought some scarecrows, and I remembered that they were very weak to fire, which makes sense because they're scarecrows.
Yeah,
and I flailed around like a torch hollow, missing most attacks, but crucially hitting some with a torch, which was effective.
Yeah, seeing their like fear and their multiple attacks and stuff was actually became pretty scary. Actually, like
it was good fun.
For something that's only challenge rating 1, we were all like level 5, a party of 3.
It was
and,
4 scarecrows.
We dealt with it, but like I took some damage. I took like 35 points
we had
of damage.
we had some very poor rolls. It must be said.
Well, we got frightened most times.
We all got frightened at least once, and we all like missed a good amount of time. And we didn't, we weren't using we were just using hidden sticks half the time. It was like you got to fight smart. But it's a cool enemy. Again, having resistances and weaknesses actually adds quite a lot of a dynamic to a fight, which is cool. And in a way, because later in that we fought some zombies, which we weren't like amazingly positive about zombies, but I will say fighting zombies is very fun because they have such low AC.
Yeah,
and it does not matter what you roll. You just hit them. It's fun to hit a lot.
And awakened shrubs. This is a Jew.
Yeah, and it is an awakened shrub as well. He's a very angry pumpkin down there. Quite unpleasant looking.
I mean, when else are we gonna do awakened shrub?
No, agreed. I'm happy to have it not swept away, but catalogued and put on the shelf.
Yeah,
in order. And right, it's Inktober still ripe. It's down there in the bottom left.
Look at him.
It's ripe. Right for the picking. Master Wayne. What I will say, thinking back on Scarecrow, my favourite Scarecrow of fiction is of course the Howl's Moving Castle Scarecrow who just hops around on a big stick. And no, he is not. He's my second favourite, obviously. If I was to have had a chance to think more about this before doing it, I would have gone for a jumping pogo stick Scarecrow. Speaking of that sort of thing, it's the end of this season now.
Oh no!
We're closing the book on. No, we're turning the page. Are we closing the book or are we turning the page? I think we're closing the book.
I think we're closing the book. Yeah.
Or we're finishing a chapter, but I think we're actually finishing a volume. The first 3 chapters of which
can be volume
one. Volume one of Challenge Raiders is 3 chapters.
And this is going. And this is going on the top shelf. The top shelf.
Yeah, and this is top shelf, far left. Yep. Slam it in.
Yep.
Bonk. You can take the bookmark out and undog-ear the pages depending on how you do it.
What we're trying to say is there might be a change of format when the show comes back.
So there's going to be some changes. We always like to when you go to open up volume 2, you might things might be a bit different. Maybe I don't think it'll actually make any difference to the consumption of it.
It will still be around half an hour or maybe more if we like it of us talking about a monster. So that bit stays, and there'll still be a drawing of a monster, but other things around it will change.
But hopefully it'll result in a better quality drawing and a bit more, a bit more theme and structure and
more theme, more structure, maybe some more dynamic pieces.
We're not chaotic good anymore. We're lawful good now,
guys.
I demand order.
I got the show program tattooed on my back.
I'm sorry. Unfortunately for you, it's all changing. You have to get them crossed out. But you got it tattooed in pencil, right? Pen and paper. That's why it should be pencil and paper RPG. It's a rude name to call it pen and paper. You don't want to print out a character sheet every time you level up.
No, I got it done with a prison tat.
Well, I guess you're gonna have to go back to prison now.
Yeah,
sorry.
Jeez. Okay, we got to do the end.
Well, hang on. Also.
Oh, do we?
Oh, hang on. I haven't got a party horn. Where's my? I'll stand back from the mic so it's not too loud.
Just lower this bit.
No. Victory.
That's the horn at the beginning that I've got. I do own a horn because I'm an idiot. 100 subscribers. It's happened.
We hit 100.
And also over 100. So it's compensated for the fact that I'm subscribed, and I hope you two are as well.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, I'm subscribed. So it might be 100 actual other people.
Yeah, 100 actual. I mean, some of them we know personally, but that's fine. Some of them even watch.
Progress is progress.
Yeah,
So it's nice to keep stock of the milestones. Thank you everyone who has, dropped a subscribe, given a like, and the comments we get, we read every single one, and we always appreciate them. So
sometimes I respond. I try to respond to all of them if I can.
Yeah.
Anyway, the time is ripe for some jokes about the awakened shrub and the scarecrow.
Very good.
That are also calls to action. Don't sleep. Awaken to the possibilities by subscribing. Is that what the spell was called? Awaken? It is that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't let our comments be scarce.
Don't be scared to comment. That might just be that's an obvious. It's not really a joke, but it's a. If I say it like, don't be scared to comment.
Yeah, maybe give a terrifying gaze over to the comment section.
I guess it's also the fact it's just made of hay, so you could just say, "Hey, why don't you send it to a friend?"
Very good.
It's good, especially good that you made sure to remind us of the double meaning of the word "hey." Before,
Yeah, otherwise I really just sounded like I was saying "hey" because it's not.
Yeah, otherwise it wouldn't work.
No, it wouldn't have worked at all.
It's got a lot of hello meaning.